Supported by and do not reflect those of the Evening Rush Network. Viewers' discretion is advised.
Yeah.
Ziporh is on the
Yeah, you know what it is. We the head honchos. The number one podcast of Rellz and Blacko. We hitting hard. We got the balls. We at the top. Whoa. Just tune in every Monday at 9 for your favorite show. The Relaxation Hour. Yeah, you know what we be on. Might interview your favorite artist. Play your favorite song. Reporting live from NY. We up in every borough. Not to mention we worldwide. Got the game in the choco. We keep it ish popping. How you love that? Forever at the top. How you love that? We the life of the party, how you love that? Showing love to the artists, get it right back. So light you up an L and just kick back. We bout to get it poppin', is you ready yet? This show is for the real ones and the pretty ladies. Can't forget about my riffos and the project babies. It's the Relaxation Hour. Ooh, it's the Relaxation Hour. Ooh, it's the Relaxation Hour. Ooh, it's the Relaxation Hour. Ooh.
Yo, welcome everybody. Welcome back. It's been a minute, but welcome back to the Rellz Relaxation Hour. I'm your host, Rellz, joined once again by my co-host, superstar Jay Blacko himself. What's going on, brother?
Chilling, man. It's been a minute. We've been going for 3 weeks, for a month. A lot's been going on. Shout out to Travel United States. What's up with you, my brother?
I'm not as world traveled as you are right now, but I've been good. I can't complain, man. I can't complain. Everything's been good. Everything has been copacetic.
Nah, that's what it is, man. Once again, I see you got the wrestling thing. Well, of course, I was on episode 1. Shout out to your Art of the Finish, man.
I appreciate that. You'll be on episode 3 too.
I'm definitely. We big. I'm not a big wrestling fan like I used to be. I think I stopped during the ruthless aggression era. Was my end.
We're bringing him back though, guys. We're bringing him back. He's slowly getting back in the ring. Slowly.
Yo, listen. If I play a wrestling game that got my attention, it'll get me back. That's how I stay in wrestling mode. I play the games. I'm back into it.
Absolutely. What else is new with you though? How's everything?
I've been good, man. Like I said, I did the the cross country tour, driving from Vegas to New York. I know everybody out there probably like, what the fuck is he talking about? Let me say something to y'all. It's not that bad. I enjoyed the open road. I got to know myself, honestly, and I got to really clear my head. And it's something that was definitely needed. Like I said, I scratched off the bucket list, east to west. Next year, I'm trying to do, and I told you about it, I'm trying to do south to north. I'm trying to do.
Hey, babe,
I'm trying to get them, y'all. I'm trying to get a couple of people.
I like how you said that. As soon as she clocked in too.
I'm trying to get them to go from Texas, y'all, all the way across the south. Stop, have some good southern food.
Just make sure we don't do it in the middle of hurricane season.
Oh no. Listen. If anything possible, try and do that shit in summertime. That's the best way to do it. Cause you come from summer to summer. Well, South's gonna be hell. Summer.
You go from hell humidity to New York. Well, it's the same shit. It's the same.
Listen, when I left Vegas, it was like what, $110? No, $110. So it wasn't too bad though.
And then when you got here,
when I got here, that shit dropped down to like 80, like 79, 80.
I will say this: being a mailman in the summertime, I absolutely hate it. Thank God that fall is coming back around. Cooler weather, less sweat for me unless it's in the gym. Thank God for that. Because this humidity this summer has been one of the hottest summers I've delivered in the 15 years I've been delivering mail.
But it wasn't a hot summer though. That's the crazy part about it.
It felt like it. We had this is probably the longest stretch of 90-degree days that we've had.
Nah, I think the hottest summer we had was probably 3-4 years ago. It ain't really. It was hot this summer, but it wasn't that hot. So it wasn't too bad. You know what I'm saying? But then again, like I said, I just came from 112 degree weather. So.
But you came from 112 degree dry heat too, so it wasn't that bad.
As a matter of fact, when I left Vegas, it was like the time us four went to Vegas and all that. When it was hot out there that day, well, that week, You know what I'm saying? It was like that. You know what I'm saying? So I think I saw I wasn't gonna go back to Vegas. I think I owe Vegas one more trip.
By
But
yourself?
it gotta be
Well,
done
more so
correctly.
like, yeah, I was gonna say.
It gotta be done. It gotta be done real correctly to the point I'm on the airplane on a window like this.
Oh no,
I
I
need
can't
one.
do that,
I
bro. I'm
need one of
old.
those.
I'm old. I can't do that no more.
Nah, listen,
I don't like that feeling.
me neither. I hate it. I don't know how people get drunk. Listen. I hate feeling drunk. I hate being drunk. I like being nice. I get to laugh a lot. You know what I'm saying? And you know me, I joke all day already, but I cannot. I hate being drunk, and I hate the hangover.
Yeah, I don't like the feeling either. Trust me, it does not feel good. But we back at it. Tonight's episode should be a good one too. Before we get started, let's just shout out the sponsor, 2920 Clothing. Blacko owes me some shirts, so I'm putting it out there now. So that way, the next couple of times I see him with shirts and I don't get my shirts done, I'm gonna put them on blast in the show. So I just felt the need to do that again. So, and I'm gonna do this every time I see a new shirt and we come on the show. I'm not even gonna tell you no more. Like, I'm not even gonna text you no more. I'm just gonna be like, yo, shout out to 2920 Clothing and that new Blacko shirt he got. Just like that. Just like that. So, you know,
Listen,
like
man,
that.
it's not me, man. Okay. I
Yeah,
got you. Like I
you
said,
just
I got
straight
you.
out on air. He just said it's not okay.
It's not me, man. You
All
got to talk.
right.
You got to talk to the main company, B. That's what it is. They got
Right.
me walking around like the mannequin and all that. You
You
got to
do
talk
know
to the
you
main
do
company.
know we are the main company, right?
Listen, I know what you're talking about.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the man above the man.
Right. We are the man above the man. Yo.
That's
And
my
shout out
story.
to
I'm sticking with it.
right. And shout outs to Bobby D Customs. Always
Bobby
on the
D.
check in. Always on the check in. Always liking all the posts. Always supporting. So shout outs to you definitely. And so time for our guest for the night. So I feel like this is a very important episode to have, and I'm glad he came on tonight because this is something me and Blacko we talk about off air often, but we don't really ever talk about it on air. And
We do.
Yeah, but not as much as we talk about it off air though.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's about the education system, not only across the country, but most specifically in New York City. So I guess tonight he's the president of the New York City Elementary School Principals Association, Louis E. Torres.
Man, that crowd is big.
Man, listen, we got a big audience, man. Thanks for joining us tonight, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother. It's a pleasure and honor to be here tonight with the two of you.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Sorry to have you up so late too. I apologize by the way for that. But
listen, he on a relaxation now, man. He relaxing right now. That's
what
it.
he's supposed to be. But thanks once again for joining.
You just know I'm gonna be real, and I'm here to be real. So whatever you need to know, I'm here.
Absolutely. So, in doing some research on you, I got a question. How is it that I understand that you got left back because I did hear that part. How did the school not know that you couldn't read?
Yeah, I mean, it happens today, right? It happens nowadays too. A lot of our youth get pushed through the system, and no one really, takes the time to know them as learners. So I was in third grade. I finally got a teacher that took the time to realize that I wasn't going to be ready for fourth grade. My mother, was Puerto Rican woman. My father, Puerto Rican man. Both of them hardworking people. Education, they left it up to the schools, and they trusted the schools. And finally, I had a teacher to say, you know what, this kid can't read. He can't go on to the fourth grade. If we push him to the fourth grade, he's just going to keep moving along. He's never going to catch up. So I finally got a teacher that took the time, and she said, you're not going to move forward. It was devastating for me, as a kid. I actually didn't want to go home. I wanted to run away at that point, but I was fortunate that this person took the time to know that I couldn't read and held me back.
Yeah, it's hard for us, especially as inner city kids, because And this is what I was asking you. This is what I was going to ask you, because I'm just going to get right into the question and ask you. I want your honest opinion. A lot of the teachers, especially when I was growing up, a lot of the teachers weren't from the city. They were like either from the suburbs or, maybe Jersey or whatever the case may be. Do you think that a lot of these teachers just looked at it as a 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, as opposed to just really sitting there and trying to help these kids learn?
Yeah, and the other thing was, I really didn't have any black teachers. I didn't have no black teachers. I didn't have any Hispanic teachers growing up. They were all white. Majority were not from the neighborhood. And that was a big challenge for me because, I was growing up in a very challenging community. They didn't understand, where I was coming from. And they were making judgments on me as early as, first, second grade. And they just passed me along. But, a lot of the challenges that the teachers didn't reflect the community that they were serving. And I think that sometimes, it puts us in a disadvantage when we don't have enough black and brown teachers out there. Like my school building right now, I had for a long time, I had about 70% white teachers. I flipped that, and I have now like 99% black and Hispanic teachers because, the children need to be around people that look and are like them and understand them and understand their culture. Don't get me wrong. There are some white teachers that go, real strong for our community. And I have some in my school. And sometimes black and brown teachers are not the best for our children either, right? So you get some black and brown teachers that are not good for our children, believe it or not. Sometimes they're worse. But back then when I was going to school, I didn't see a black teacher until I got to high school. So that was one of the major problems I felt.
Let me ask you a question. Like you said early in your educational come up, you said you couldn't read. You had a teacher that sat down with you, helped you develop, they got you prepared for the next grade. Do you think that's one of the issues that they have right now? Because especially nowadays with these kids, like these kids, you see a lot of them acting out. Do you think the acting out comes from trying to hide the fact that they lack in certain terms of learning, like math, reading, and everything?
I think that the biggest challenge, and I hope that in my 18 years I've been able to stress this, and I see a lot of work around what I've been talking about for years, is that education for a lot of our families is a sixth priority. Food, shelter, safety, health, access to technology comes before education. Not because our people don't value education, but it's because life's challenges for a lot of our families come before education. And because of these inequities that exist, our children are faced with challenging life situations that don't allow them to focus on education. It's hard to read a book when you're hungry, right? It's hard for you to do homework when you got no light in your house. It's hard for you to do your homework when you don't got furniture to do your homework on, or you don't have internet access. A lot of these things came out during the pandemic, and we started to realize that, a lot of the issues is that the inequities of the world are greater than the priority of education. And for a lot of our families, unless we address those 5 other basic needs, we can never focus on education. So we got children coming to school that are hungry and can't focus in the classroom. And because nobody's taking the time to understand that, are penalizing our children for the inequities that exist in the world. And, lack of sleep is another big issue, right? When you got gun shooting happening right outside your door or right outside your window on a regular basis, like the community I serve, how can you sleep? You can't sleep. You can't focus. You can't think. And then you got to wake up early in the morning after a whole night of all this chaotic life that was going on. And then you got to go back and focus in school. And the first thing you get from a teacher is, why you late? Why you didn't do your homework? Why you didn't do this? Why you didn't do that? And then that's why our children get angry and frustrated. And that's one of the reasons why in my school, I teach my teachers what is called therapeutic crisis intervention. I teach them to de-escalate children, not to escalate them. because a lot of the times our children are coming in already escalated. And because they're escalated, as soon as you tell them take their hat off and they say no to you, and you grab that hat from them, then they punch in a wall or punch in a window, then we're suspending our children. But did somebody take the time to find out that that kid just spent the whole night in a community where gun shooting was happening outside his window? Or he didn't have nothing to eat? Or he didn't have electricity in his house? Or he didn't have internet access to do the homework? Or printer to print the work? There's so many things that our youth face every day that if we as schools and educators don't try to work with them and take away that extra baggage from them, we're never going to truly educate our children. And a lot of it is purposeful because, the same way we're talking tonight about education, there are people talking about private prisons and investing in private prisons.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The same way we talk about educating our youth, there are people like finding out ways of how to increase enrollment in the prisons. And we have to understand that. And when we understand that, then we understand that as educators and as schools, we can't just focus on literacy and math. We have to try to address all those other basic needs as much as possible so that our children can then focus on education.
That's powerful that you bring that up because now, like as me and Rellz, we all came up, like Rellz went to private school, I went to regular elementary school all the way up to I finished. And you say that it's like you bring it up like, kids come to school agitated because I used to see that every day. A teacher get into it with a student and you never knew what's going on. Sometimes in our mind as the students, we just think, this kid's just a badass kid. He's gonna do what he want. And like you said, we don't know the turn of events that he's going through. He might be going through something at home, hunger, and that definitely plays a major part, being I'm a father myself now. And I see that, and it's like I try to make sure, the kids good in the morning, the spirits is good, because with me, I didn't have that. It was either get up and go.
Yeah, and another thing that is not said, lately I've been posting up. It's 10 a.m., 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Remember the commercial that used to come out?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'll be posting that up on Instagram, trying to get that revived, because a lot of the issues too is that we're not taking the time to really control and manage our family at home and what's going on at home with our children. I guarantee you, if I drive around the community where my school is located, we'll find a group of kids just running around and hanging out, and it's like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night right now.
If you don't mind me asking, what area is your community?
Oh, I'm located in Claremont, right in the middle of 4 housing projects.
Right? He's a principal at 50. He's a principal at 55, right across the street from my building.
I'm about to say, you say 55 like I'm from your area.
No, but okay, so you know where you park on the hill?
Phil, yeah, I know.
Yeah, whatever. The big school right across the street.
Yeah, I got it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so I'm right in the middle, right between Wash and Webb, where everything goes down, right? Because you can't go to the library in Fulton Street if you live on Webster, because you got to walk through Washington.
You got to walk through Franklin.
This is the type of stuff that I deal with as a principal. Where I have to cancel fire drills when there's gun shooting outside. It's just not a normal place, but I've been there 18, 19 years. So, I'm part of the family because I have now grandkids of former students coming to the school, which is crazy.
Let me ask you something. This is much more touching. And as a principal, you say you've been there 18, 19 years. And this is, like I said, it's going to be a touching question.
Yep.
Like you said, you grew up in that neighborhood. You got kids from that neighborhood. How many kids, students, that when they left that school, you hear like they passed on because stuff that happened in the street that you try to get them away from?
Yeah, I haven't really dealt with that as far as the shooting and the gangs. I actually had two of my students die in the fire that happened in the Bronx.
Okay.
2 of my students died in that fire. One of my staff members lost her sister, her sister's husband, and their 3 children. So, like, the fires is where I've been hit hard from the school perspective. But with my students, I haven't seen a lot of that. But what I do see is a lot of youth that are lost. because when they leave my school, depending on what middle school they get into, is like a Russian roulette game. If they go in the wrong middle school, there's nothing I could do at that point. But what I also do, just let's focus on some of the positive. I have right now about 20 of my former students that work in the school now. I actually have a 5th grade teacher now teaching math. She was a former student of mine in the school, African young lady. She's now a 5th grade math teacher. I have about 6 paraprofessionals that work in the school system now that were former students of mine that we put them through. So I basically hire the community, because you can't be a real community school unless you involve the community. So I hire people from the community. So my youth work for me. I actually have a community cleanup program where I pay $100 every Saturday for 13 of my young men to come out and do community cleanup. Every Saturday they do it, and we pay them $100, $20 an hour for 5 hours. So I do a lot of that work. The problem is when they leave me. The problem is when they leave me and they wind up going the wrong direction, then it's very hard for me to do anything, because I used to believe that I could fix the community with the school, but the reality is, if there's not equal investment in the school around the community, the community around the school, it becomes a cycle of failure. Because everything I teach the children, they go back and relearn the negative stuff. And that's the challenge I have. So, one of the things I'm trying to do is partner up more with middle schools, and that's one of the reasons why I was so happy to be the president of the Elementary Schools Association, because I could leverage that to try to get more schools to do the work that I'm doing, so that we can have a greater impact on the community. Because if we're just doing it from my school, it's not going to really impact the community the way we need to, because there's 3,000 families living on one square block. I can't possibly do it all, but if we get more schools to do the work that I'm doing, then we could have a greater impact.
And it sucks because, like you said, like it's only so much you can do. If you have a kid in your school, let's just say from 7 in the morning to 3, and it's really nothing you can do from 3:30 on into the next day. So God knows what can, like everything you taught them in that 8 hours of day of school can all be erased in the next hour and 2, depending on the company that they're in.
Yeah, and the good thing is we have an after-school program that goes to. I try to keep the building open till 6 every day, and I even do Saturdays now. And we're about to open up a soccer stadium in the school. And just to give you a little bit taste of what we do in our school, I'm building a soccer stadium in the schoolyard. I'm trying to work right now with Grandmaster Kaz and Grandmaster Melly Mel and Windows of Hip Hop to put a music studio in the basement of the school. We are about to open up our brand new cafeteria. I'm about to have a $850,000 to $2 million upgrade of the auditorium. We actually have aeroponic farms in the school, as well as farms outside of the school where we grow vegetables all year long. We grow zucchini, eggplant, tomatoes, everything, kale, and we teach the children how to cook it, and we give the food to the community, and we give to the cancer patients that live in the neighborhood. So we're trying to create a self-sustaining community. But the challenge is there's not an equal investment in the housing projects around the school. There's a community center that can only service about 200 children at a time. When you have thousands of children in that area that have nowhere to go after the after school program, and then that's where that cycle of failure goes. I even have a baseball diamond across the street that no longer exists. They use that field as a dog park at this point. I tried to get that park, and they told me no, housing didn't give it to me. But yet they haven't developed anything over 18 years in that park where I could have created a baseball program and had more youth involved in programs and activities. So with all the great stuff we do, I even have a hospital in the school with a nurse, dentist, psychologist, ophthalmologist, full-time on staff. So we do full service in the school. I have all of this stuff going, but there's no investment in those buildings around the school. They put up scaffolding. They're making money off of the scaffolding. They're doing, causes more crime in the neighborhood. I know where all the dealings and the drugs and stuff is going on. So I'm able to navigate and work with people in the community to try to keep that away from our kids. But there's no equal investment in the community around the school, so a cycle of failure will continue, and the inequities continue, and sadly, we will continue to feed the prison system until there is real change that happens in that community. With all my efforts, and my job, I feel, is to close the prisons, but it's not equal investment in the neighborhood. You just don't see it. There's no YMCA in that neighborhood. There's no Kids Bay in that neighborhood. There are no banks in the neighborhood. This is just straight up Chinese restaurant on the corner type of neighborhood.
Listen, I've grown up in this area my whole life. I understand everything you're saying. Trust me, 100%. And it sucks that these places would rather find ways to improve prisons than they would to improve neighborhoods. It sucks.
Because
Yeah, and they say that they use the third grade reading levels to determine how many prison cells they need to open up. So it's based on third grade reading levels. They can predict that if you can't read by third grade, then you need a prison cell to be built for you.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you look it up, there's a lot of research on it. People will say no. I say yes, because there's got to be some way to determine, predict, right? Because these people are about money. They're not going to be investing in something if they don't think it's going to make them money, right? So they have to have some kind of predictor, and the predictor based on research, the predictor is third grade reading levels.
Because I think each inmate is worth like 30,000 an inmate, some shit like that.
It's cheaper to send them to college. It's cheaper to send people to college than it is to put them in prison.
It makes no sense.
It's great, but like you just said, Rellz, they invest more in the prisons because it's like an investment, man. Honestly, you figure like it's like a prison, like let's say like prison, laundry mats, and funeral homes. Those three is always gonna be needed.
Yep.
And sadly, in this area, it's laundromats, Chinese restaurants, liquor stores.
Yep.
When
I was talking off the screen. When I was growing up, right, I was an artist, and nobody took the time to know I was an artist. I got left back in early grades, but then when I got to high school, it got even worse. In high school, I had my guidance counselor tell me that I would not be successful in college, that I needed to join the military, and this was right before Desert Storm. And I knew something was coming because most of my friends during that graduation year, were being pushed towards the military. So I could probably predict now, based on what I would be able to say, you know what? They were preparing us to go out there and sacrifice ourselves. So they guided me to the military. They told me I would not be successful in college. And this was a guidance counselor. Didn't look like anybody from the community, basically telling me that I needed to go into the military. Long story short, my mother signed me up at 18. I was in the U.S. Navy, and then I got shipped right out to Desert Storm. Luckily, the war was over before anything could happen. But the reality is, you got people like that in this world that are going to tell you what you can and cannot do in this world. And because I didn't know any better, I was redirected, and that's why I got into education, because I want to make sure that our youth do what they want to do in life, not what somebody tells them to do, especially when they're being guided the wrong way.
That's crazy. Like you say that. At least I can say this. You had your guidance counselor tell you going to military was something productive, especially later on in life. You know what I'm saying? You had, especially in my generation, it was different. Like you said, you had teachers that's not from your neighborhood that don't understand. They used to tell the students, "Oh, you ain't gonna be shit." I done heard it a couple of times. Not to me though. You ain't gonna be shit. You never gonna be nothing. You go get your GED.
That's
You might
me
as well
too.
drop out. And sad to say, that's what was happening. Especially when I got to theater. I went to Theodore Roosevelt on Fordham Road, and that's one of the first schools I could legitimately say I seen. A lot of people my age and like a year or two older dropping out left and right. And the reason I asked you the question earlier about have you seen students that went on, growing up that had passed on, doing it for the neighborhoods, because when I got there, I had students my freshman year, especially that's when during the gang era, I done seen multiple students get killed. Well, I ain't gonna say I seen, but I could speak to them on a Monday, come to find out they dead on Tuesday. And some teachers took it hard because it's like, damn, like you're a kid. What happened? What's going on? Like maybe if I'd have been on you more, which these teachers don't, especially around that time. I don't know about now. You know what I'm saying? I can't speak for your district. I can't speak for your district, but I'm just speaking about over here. It's like, I don't know.
You know the crazy thing, right? Because in high school you have multiple classes. So
Yeah.
for one teacher that can sit there and say they believe in you, you'll have 2 or 3 other teachers who won't give a damn about you. And those kids will listen to the 2 or 3 that don't give a damn about you more than the one who actually is looking out for you.
But
That's
you
true.
know, I always credit my guidance counselor as being my greatest motivational speaker because by her telling me that, when I got out the military, I was so on fire to go to college to prove that guidance counselor is so wrong that I wound up with 5 college degrees. And that was really to just prove her wrong. And I wish that she was alive when I finished so that I could go back to her and say, what do you think now? And it really just changed my mindset about everything. And then sadly, I thought it was over. My daughter applies for a college and I don't care. I'll say it out loud. She applied for the art college downtown Manhattan, and she didn't get in. Yet they accept foreign students at a higher rate than black and brown students.
Very
Right?
true.
So things have not changed. You would think that by now they would have changed. They have not changed, and the system is created in a way where if you show success, right, and I'm not supposed to show success.
Mm-hmm.
When you show success, they take away funding from you. So it's almost better for you not to be successful. Okay, that's the kind of system we're working on. What I'm saying is the state education department, right? If you're a failing school, will give you extra money. Once you get off that failing list, they take all that money away that they gave you, and all those things that made you successful go away. That's why I had to become a hustler and a beggar, so that way I could get those resources without being dependent on the state education department. I became a hustling beggar.
May I ask you a question?
Wait, Blacko, hold that question. Let's take a break real quick. We're gonna take a real break and we're gonna come right back. If you're looking to get a podcast on the Evening Rush Network and you don't know how, this is how you do it.
Looking to podcast shows and do not know where to start? The Evening Rush Network can help you with that. Call us at 929-441-2417 or email us at theeveningrushnetwork@gmail.com for dates and prices. We got you for all your podcast needs. The Evening Rush Network. Tune in, subscribe, and share.
Thanks for coming back with us. We're back with Louis E. Torres, president of the New York City Elementary School Principal Association. But Blacko, you had a question to ask before we went to break?
Yes, I did. And I'm quite sure, people that's watching, listening, they have the same question. Well, not even gonna say the same question, the same wonderance as I do. In the inner cities, especially mostly within the 5 boroughs and anywhere they consider the ghetto, how come the school system is separated? You have the regular elementary school when the educational level is subpar. Then you have charter schools where the education supposed to be a little better, but then you go to neighborhoods like Long Island, the Westchester County. Our charter schools basically they regular elementary schools. Why is that is separated and it just can't be for one? Everybody gets the same educational treatment.
That's a good question. And then the other question you need to ask is why are the poor neighborhoods flooded with charter schools, and the more affluent neighborhoods don't have charter schools, right? So if you go to certain neighborhoods, they don't allow charter schools in there because their public schools require all the funding. See, what happens is when you put a whole bunch of schools in one community, right? There is now a fight for funding. And what you do is you wind up watering down a lot of schools at the expense of 1 or 2 schools. So some children will be very successful and get all the resources they need, while others will be fending for themselves. Give you an example, and my school is very unique. I share my building with a charter school, and I'm able to compete.
Okay, I have a question. I'm sorry to cut you
Yeah.
off. Sharing a building with a charter school, is that beneficial or is that a detriment?
So it depends on you, right? I'm a hustler. they put a charter school in my building, not knowing who I was, right? And I'm able to compete. I'm able to use the charter school to support and benefit my school. And we work collaboratively because I understand that we have to work for all children, whether they're charter school or public schools. And I have to make the relationship work for my children. Politically, they have a lot of power. So I tap into that. Hustle wise, I get the resources. So they need to tap into that. And they need me just as much as I need them. And I'm able to work that relationship. So I'm able to get the hospitals. I'm able to get the extra funding. I'm able to get the extra resources, that will benefit the charter school. And then whenever I need them for something, I'll be like, look, can I get your parents to complain about the conditions in the auditorium, right? And then they're able to get that from me. So it's about building a collaborative relationship. But getting back to the question about charter schools, so when you flood a community with a whole bunch of charter schools, funding is dependent on enrollment, right? So if you have a pool of 500 students, let's say, right, and you only have those 500 students going to one school, that one school gets all the funding, right? That's the way we grew up in. That's the way our public schools were when we were growing up. That's why a lot of our public schools had the sports, the arts programs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you flood that same community with 5 charter schools and your public school. Now, those 500 students are divided among 6 schools. Each school now only is able to get 100 children, or depending how good your school is, right? You might get more than the other school, and your funding is dependent on that register total, right? What's the first thing that goes when you don't have funding? The non-essential subjects, the non-essential programs.
Sports to arts.
Sports and arts, counseling services, all the things that we need for our children to be successful are then taken away so that we can try to compete with the charter schools, which on top of the funding that they're going to get per student, they're able to go and get private funding. And they're able to get additional fundings to make up for whatever monies they're losing based on register totals. But because you're flooding communities with multiple schools, you're causing damage to the schools that were existing in those communities.
Mm-hmm.
But then the perception is that charter schools are better than public schools. And I will put my school up against any charter school, and let's see who provides the most services and programs for their children. And I'm a public school, community school. Now, is that the norm for all schools? Probably not. It's just that I've figured out that in order for me to be competitive, I need to be able to hustle and beg for resources so that I can have the additional programs without being dependent on state funding and enrollment monies. So I get a lot of private funding. I get a lot of funding from elected officials and others because I've been able to, figure out how to negotiate those monies. But it's not the norm for public schools, and it's what I'm saying that if we don't change, it could be the downfall for public education in New York City and across the country. If we don't start to figure out that we need both public and charter, but we can't have one affect the other one in a negative way.
I have a question for you. And this actually dates back to, like I said, time I'm going to school and coming up into like recent years. What made the educational system realize having too many kids in the classroom doesn't benefit, the growth of a child's education level until now where it's like before you had some classes had like 20 kids in there. Now you might see 12 to 16. What made them to really take a notice that like, okay, listen, the kids is not learning, teachers can't handle this. It's time to cut these classes in half. Now, this is a two-part question now. Now, being that they did that now you have some schools it's hard to get in. You know what I'm saying? Like you have they overbook, and stuff like that. So what was the change that what who sat down and realized this? Was it the teachers? Was it the principals like yourself? Or was it the parents that's complaining my child's not get the proper education because you have one teacher in the classroom that's focused on this one child when there's like 17 others in here that need the same proper education?
Yeah, so a lot of it is philosophies. A lot of it is the constant changing of leadership, right? So you get a chancellor believes in one thing, another chancellor believes in something else. You get different philosophies, different ways of thinking. If you're asking me from my perspective,
Yes.
growing up, we were growing up in a different time, right? Back then, a teacher could manage 30 some students a little bit better than teachers now, right? The behaviors are different. The way we educate our children is different.
The attention spans too.
Yeah, and the level of respect is different, right? It was different. It was just a different time. The times now are a little bit more challenging. The children are coming in with more challenges. Research is showing, that we did some things wrong in the past that we need to do differently now. But in my thoughts and the way I envision education moving forward is that education has to have a purpose. There has to be a purpose to education moving forward. And the classrooms now should be more geared towards college, but more towards careers, the future careers that are going to be coming out, right? So if that's the case, then we need to fine tune our classrooms, reduce the class sizes, focus the education more on preparing our children for various careers and creating pipelines to the city jobs. And that's what education should be moving towards, right? So right now, every high school should have a pipeline to the police department, fire department, sanitation department, construction work, all these jobs. There should be pipelines from the high schools going into these schools, into these careers. And on top of that, the housing development that's being built in the Bronx and across New York offer a high school student a career, right? So you offer him the opportunity to be a police officer, then offer them a low-income apartment in one of these buildings, right? And then you start to change the mindset of our community. You start to change the purpose of schools because, what we're starting to find is that college is not for every student. There's a shortage of people going into these positions in our city. And if a police officer lives in the community and is from the community, more than likely they're going to get more respect and you're going to have the community buy-in. So there has to be a shift in our education. So small class size, we understand, is because there's a change in the needs of our youth growing up, right? You can't keep the system the same. If you keep it the same, you're never going to show change, right? That's one. Small class size helps our children because the teacher can manage the class better, right? Because when you have 30 students in a classroom, all it takes is the two in the back of the room to distract half of the class. Because if the children in the back of the class have a better lesson plan than the teacher, right? The children are focused on those two children, and the teacher is not going to get it. So small class size does work. There's a push for it. I know that the mayor announced that they're going to be implementing small class size come September 2023. So that's going to be in effect. But more than that, I think that we need to go back to vocational programs and having our youth and schools have a purpose with college and career being the end of it. Not every child is going to go to college, so let's have them go into a career. What we can't have is that our children continue to graduate from high school and wind up adding to the corners and the streets of the neighborhoods where we live in.
So, question: do you think it would be wise for like schools to implement like a business class for kids, like to teach them how to run a business or teach them the ins and outs of business etiquette?
Absolutely. Financial literacy is very important. Um, right now, one of the things I'm doing is my incentives, I call them Bitcoins. I want to teach my children about Bitcoins. I want to teach them about the future of money. I want to teach them everything possible. You see it in other communities. They teach their children how to open up bank accounts. You got children walking around with debit cards in middle school and high school, learning about how to, why credit is important. They learn about these things in other communities. It's sad that in our communities we don't teach that, right? I didn't find out about financial literacy until I was buying my first property, and I was trying to figure out why, my interest rates were so high and why I was going to be paying more money than other people for the same property that they're buying, and it had to be with do with my credit score and my buying power and stuff like that. So it's very important that we teach financial literacy in our communities. It's not done enough, and it's important that we partner up with banks and other organizations.
And this the piggyback off what y'all both talking about. Like me and Rellz, we spoke about this on a couple of episodes. Like students, like even like myself, when I was in high school, I thought school was very boring. I thought nothing. And honestly, I just wanted to get the hell out of there, get my degree. I'm going because it was nothing there that really excited me to really go. Um, so now we talk about, like, for instance, now like the last 10 years, you had a high dropout rate with these students, especially high school wise. They wasn't finishing. You got a lot of kids that went the ninth or 10th grade. That was it for them because they wanted the financials, they wanted the money because they felt their parents couldn't give them their money, or the neighborhood they from could offer more money than what they was getting in school. They felt they learned enough, so they need to reach their financials. How come there's not a lot of schools, that come together and and have these conversations? Like, what could we do to get these kids, you know, interest in school? Music. Everybody loves music. Like you said, you got the
Yeah. So
music
first,
room,
first,
but you got a lot of kids that want to learn engineering. Not just the instrument part. Like,
yep.
times is different. When I grew up, we had the trumpet, the saxophone. We had the glee clubs.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's more so the engineering room. Every kid want to be a rapper. They want to be a video photographer. Like, why they don't have some of these classes in these public schools where they know they can catch these kids' attention? That way, these kids be so. It shouldn't have to be also all the time on some. You want to be successful, get your degree, get this, or be a basketball player, be a football player, be a baseball player to make it out. No, there's other avenues where money can be made, and honestly, the school will help that if they grab these kids' attention and figure out what they want. Because
Mm-hmm.
majority of these kids want the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Even adults want the same thing.
Absolutely, and I'll share with you because I know you was talking about your brand and everything early. We were teaching our children in the school. These are fourth and fifth graders how to make their own T-shirt brands. We actually had this young lady named K Love through Windows of Hip Hop came in and was teaching them the business of hip hop. Then we had a couple of people come in talking about engineering and the different careers. See, what I think was the biggest mistake is that back in the days, the focus was on high school and middle school, right? People would say, oh, they're dropping out of high school.
Yeah.
The reality is they're dropping out in elementary school. They're just getting to high school,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have to teach them the legal business before they learn the illegal stuff. And that's the important thing, right? So before they can learn the illegal stuff, right? Before they become the lookouts, before they become the carriers, and we got to teach them about the legal businesses, those things that they can be doing so that they can make money in the future that is legal before they're being caught up and getting caught out in the streets. But doing it at the elementary level is very important. And I think that what you're saying is very important. More elementary schools need to be doing this work early before they get to middle school, because By the time they get to middle school and high school now, their mindsets are already set. They're gonna by middle school, they're already determining whether they're gonna finish high school or not. So we have to start the work earlier. Middle school is like high school when we were growing up. Elementary is like middle school when we were growing up. A lot of the issues that happen in middle school are now happening in the elementary level. A lot of the things that are happening in middle school now were happening in high school when we were growing up. But if we don't get them early and we don't capture them early and start to expose them to the various careers, I even got fencing going on in my school at this point. So I want them to be exposed. I got fencing. So this is my Saturday
I actually had that
program.
in my school too. We had
Yeah,
fencing in my class.
yeah.
My
On
school.
Saturdays, I got fencing, archery. I got tap dance with this guy named Josh Johnson, who's like the best tap dancer you ever meet. I got capoeira. I got flamenco dancing. I got everything you could. I'm trying to expose them to everything that they could possibly be exposed to see if there's something that gets them.
Mm-hmm.
I teach them financial literacy. I partnered up with Chase Bank to do financial literacy. I also partnered up with Bronx Crypto to teach them about NFTs and cryptocurrency. I'm doing everything in my power to educate them at the elementary level. We just got to get more schools and more people to do that across the city and across the schools. But you guys have a lot of answers to a lot of the questions you have. You got that. You already know what we need to do. The problem is we got some people sitting in schools and running these schools that don't have that mindset. And we got to change that. And, you know, hopefully in my position, I'm able to clone a lot of what I'm doing across the city.
Like another thing, right? One subject that always been overlooked throughout times, art. You know, we heard the subject of art. We thought art was playtime, is a free period. We just go there and draw. But
Mm-hmm.
nobody ever explained to us that art is actually profitable. Imagine you telling the kid, listen, you know, the art you make, you take it serious. Maybe one day they'll hang your art in the museum. You can make money off it as for generational wealth. They never taught us that. They just taught us, hey, here, go draw this, go paint that. So, you know, you explain to a kid, let's say explain to a 10-year-old, hey, you draw this painting, make it real good. Hey, you take it serious, you can make money. They hear money, they're gonna start taking it serious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Nobody
so one of the classes we teach is the difference between art and vandalism,
okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The difference between graffiti and vandalism. So we have graffiti artists who are very successful, like Andre Trinia. We've even had the Tatch Crew, Cope 2, and all these graffiti artists who are making big money doing graffiti, right? And we tell them we want you to talk to the children about why you're making money to do these things and why when they're trashing their elevator, you know, it's not good, right? And we teach them that, and we try to educate them on the difference between graffiti and vandalism. And a lot of the children get it. You got some children right now that have left my school that want to get into art as a profession and make money. One of the things we do is we do an art show, and you know, children earn points on their art. So it's, you know, we try to art in our school. We one of the things, because I was an artist, I was a graffiti artist growing up, right? So I grew up and I learned about art by watching the Tatch Crew draw the murals every time somebody in my family in the community would die. They would draw the mural, right? That's how I was exposed to the arts, right? So I want arts and music to be in all schools, and it's possible. But sadly, because of the budgets and all the stuff that I was talking about earlier, some schools have cut their arts and music programs. But even more so, arts and music is access to college and careers, which I keep talking about. You can't compete for art scholarships if you don't have a strong art program or a strong art background that prepares you to compete for those scholarships. It's the same thing with sports, right? The reason why we don't have a lot of black and brown hockey players is because we don't have black and brown hockey programs in our schools. In our schools, they are predominantly black brown. Same thing with tennis. Same thing with golf. Same thing with all the sports that you don't see black and brown people in. It's not because we won't be competitive and win. It's a matter of access, and it's a matter of having those opportunities to be able to compete. But every now and then you get a Serena. Every now and then you get a Tiger Woods. They got the access for whatever reason, right? And then they were able to do amazing. But imagine if all of our schools, if all of our high schools had strong sports and arts programs, how many more of our people would be going into these careers and getting the scholarships and the benefits of having that access and resources, right? So a lot of it, understand, some of this is purposeful too, right? If we don't have sports and arts programs in our community that are competitive, then who controls those scholarships, right? And I say this in my TED Talk. Who will control those scholarships if our sports and arts programs are not strong? Those communities that have strong sports and arts programs, right? It is no mistake as to why certain communities never pay for college, even though they have money, right? Because they make sure they invest in their child sports and arts background so they can compete for those scholarships. We don't have that same access, and we don't create those pipelines because we don't have the resources to do that, and we have to figure it out. And it can be done. If we really want to change things, it could be done. But I want to give you something, because I want to make sure that I say this before the night is out.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about this, right? If we eliminate crime, if you eliminate crime, think about all those people that will be out of jobs and all those people that will lose money. You won't need prisons anymore. You won't need police officers anymore. You won't need judges anymore. You won't need lawyers anymore, right? If you eliminate crime and all those other things that you don't need. What if you made everyone healthy? Think about all the people who will be out of jobs. Pharmaceutical companies will lose their jobs. Doctors will lose their jobs. Physical therapists lose their jobs. All these people lose their jobs. There is a reason why all these inequities exist. And there's a reason why that these things are allowed, and it's all based on money. And the people who are making money off of these things will continue to keep us failing and struggling so they can continue to make their money. There's a reason why all children can't read by third grade, because if all children read by third grade, you know how much money would be lost by these companies that invest in our children not being able to read? Programs that make money off of our children, the book companies, the Sylvans, the other programs that are out there that make money on our children not being able to be successful would lose money. So there's a lot of money to be made by us failing and keeping us unhealthy, and by keeping the sports and arts programs out of our schools so certain communities can continue to control those scholarships and access to resources.
That's crazy.
It is so true. He just broke it down in its most simplest form too. You can't get any more simpler than that. I have one last question to ask. I want to piggyback off of something you said earlier. So obviously your guidance counselor telling you what your guidance counselor told you back then, it could have pushed you into a negative way in life, but instead you chose to take the positive route and got all those degrees that you got. How important do you feel like guidance counselors are for schools today?
All right, let me make a comment before we get in trouble here tonight. Don't call them guidance counselors no more. Mm-hmm. We got to call them school counselors.
School counselors, okay.
Yeah, because there's a negative annotation with guidance counselor. It means like they're guiding us, which is what my guidance counselor did back then, right? She actually guided me in the wrong direction. So they changed it to school counselors. The terminology is now school counselors. But, again, this is the damage that's being done every day. We have people that are guiding us in the wrong way. They're telling us to do things without really knowing who we are. For me, if I didn't have the right mindset, that could have caused me either to be killed in the military somewhere, or just dropping out. What if I didn't go into the military and I said, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna just go to the streets and do my thing, just like everybody else on the block, right? I'm not gonna go to the military, or if I wouldn't went into the military and I didn't want to take orders from nobody and got kicked out, that could have led me to another life, right? I would have got all that training and come back out with the gun training and everything else. I would have been a hero in the community doing stuff, right? Because now I would have gun training, I would have a lot of stuff. If I had the wrong mindset, it could have went so bad. And for a lot of our people in our communities, it went bad. It went bad. And I have a lot of friends that they tell me that they didn't finish high school or college because they were misguided by people, and they were told that they wouldn't be successful, and they were told, and it became part of their mental. And because they didn't have the right mindset or the family structure. See, I grew up with my both parents, my father and my mother. My father was a strong worker. My mother was, even though she she didn't finish college, she was very smart. They kept me from going the wrong way. It could have easily went the wrong way. My friends were making the big money. My friends had the big cars. My friends were doing all of that. But what kept me away from that was my parents. They kept me away from that, and I had a good mindset. But that guidance counselor, I call it guidance counselor, but back then that's what they were called, because it sent me in the wrong direction.
It's crazy. That's crazy, man.
And I guarantee you, if you speak to your friends and people in prison and people we know, and I've done this with my friends, somewhere along the line, somebody misguided them, and there was always that person on the corner ready to catch them, pick them up, give them family, give them love, and that's what happens. You wind up becoming a family of someone who probably, is not doing the right thing, but because at least they're taking the time. And you know what? You might not be good at reading and math, but you might be good at other things, other skills that make you successful in the community, right? Other things. You might handle a gun good. You might know how to count money good. You might know how to do things that make you successful in that. So people in life, as human beings, they want to do things that make them feel good. And if you're successful at something, then you continue to do it. So if you're successful at the street life, then you'll do it. And we see it all the time. People think, oh, I'm really good at doing this until they get caught. And then that all goes away, right? But they didn't have guidance. They didn't have the right mindset. And then they had everybody else telling them, oh, you're not going to be able to go to college. You're not going to be able to get a job. And then they went the wrong way. And sadly, again, the streets will pick them up.
Mm-hmm. But there's good people like you in the world who's helping these kids try to put them on a path of better, for a better life. So we just thank you for serving the community the best way you can. Because trust me, there's not a lot of people out there like you.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm trying to save lives, close prisons, and educate people. I'm 50 years old now. I say, I got another 10 good years where I could still put the hustle in. But, sadly, there's not an equal investment in community. And I'm hoping that in the future, elected officials, others will step up and be able to make the changes that we need. Because there are people in power that can help us, and often I'm finding myself doing the work by myself, and it's a heavy lift.
We thank you once again. We thank you. And we thank you for being on the show too. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest place to find me is on Instagram. I live on Instagram a lot because that's how I get my resources. I'm hustling on Instagram as the Bronx Principal. I have a book coming out called The Sixth Priority, which I talked a little bit about, where food, shelter, safety, health, and access to technology come first. It's basically a book, like a handbook for anybody who wants to get the resources they need to help our children be successful. So that's coming out in December. And on Twitter, it's the Real Talk Torres. And that's how you can find me. I mean, if you want to find me professionally, on the professional side, just message me on Instagram, and I will give you my DOE email address. And I'm always looking to help people to rise up. I have about, I would say, 30 people from the community working in school. So I'm always looking to help others to rise. And if I can't bring you into my school, I'll help you get into other schools.
I appreciate it. Well, we thank you for being a guest on our show tonight. We helped enlighten the community a lot. We appreciate this interview.
Hey, man, you answered a lot of my questions about these school systems too. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and you guys always have access to me, and I try to be as real as I can. And I know I jump around a lot, but when you at my level, you gotta be a little crazy.
That's cool. That's cool. When your book drops, so we'll bring you back on the show. We can talk about the book.
Absolutely, brother. I appreciate you both.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you too, man.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening tonight. Have a good night, y'all.